Pokemon speedruns are no strangers to having challenging final bosses that can kill a run in the final minutes. But these fights usually have two things in common. They're all single battles and you know the order of Pokemon being sent out. Enter... yeah, Colosseum's final boss, Evis, is infamous for being one of the biggest difficulty spikes in the series. I know you've lost to him. Don't lie to me, I can see you. As for the speedrun, we have 7 pages of notes dedicated to this one fight. Unlike a regular playthrough, our team is made up of only 2 viable attackers, so how have speedrunners managed to make this fight possible? Hi, my name is Sparkle, I speedrun this game a lot, and today I'm going to talk about how Evis works in Colosseum Any %. You ready? To begin, let's understand the context of the fight. Up to this point, we've relied on Espeon as our main attacker with Typhlosion on the side to help us with type coverage among other things. In particular, we make use of the X-Item glitch, an exploit where we can use an X-Item on our other teammate in a double battle, which is normally impossible in Gen 3. This makes fights that would otherwise make us pee our pants so much easier, as Espeon can reach a very high power level starting on turn 1. We also make use of Protect on both Espy and Tai to be able to control the pace of battle. For example, Venus is one of the scariest fights in the run due to her Bayonet having a guaranteed one-shot on Espeon. But if we Protect with Espeon, we can stall for a turn while Typhlosion sets up the fight so we can win a lot easier and faster. In general, our gameplay is very fast-paced but also fragile, which is to be expected for a speedrun.
You made that for me? Yeah, that's for you!
Taking a look at Evis's team though, right off the bat we can see that our usual strategies aren't going to work. There are 4 extremely dangerous physical attackers, and due to the sheer difference in levels, Espeon only KOs one of them at +1 special attack. And if any of them are left alive... The 2 most notable threats are Scizor and Salamence. Scizor outright one-shots Espeon, and while we do have Typhlosion to take care of it, that's a turn we're spending not using an X special on Espy, which is not what we want. Part of why setting up Espeon is so important is because of Salamence. This thing has Dragon Dance, and if it doesn't see a KO, then it has a high chance of using it. This results in it both outspeeding and one-shotting our entire team, so we just kinda lose if we let that happen. But the problems don't stop there, because Evis still has 2 more Pokemon on his team. Slowking and Tyranitar both have one polarizing thing in common in that they completely wall Psychic and Fire. And by some sick twist of fate, Slowking has coverage for both Typhlosion and Espeon, so we don't really want to be leaving it alive either. If it's not clear already, this fight is kind of a mess. Oh yeah, by the way, every fight is personalized. One of Colosseum's lesser-known gameplay quirks is that starting around halfway through the game, a certain selection of enemy trainers can send out their first 2 Pokemon randomly. The way this works is different for each trainer affected by it. For example, Cypher Peon Ramil always leads with Shadow Vibrava, but her second slot can be any of her other Pokemon. In contrast, Bodybuilder Lonia can lead with any of her Pokemon except for Shadow Piloswine, which she always sends out last. What this means for the speedrun is that we have to route each variation of these fights to be beaten as efficiently as possible. It also means that some fights can sway extremely hard in terms of difficulty depending on the combo you get. The most infamous case of this is in Dakim 2, where every combo is completely risk-free except for Claydol and Flygon. You have to hit a 38% damage range on Flygon, and there's no backup, no safe strat, you just lose if you don't get it. On average, trainers that can lead randomly have around 2 to 3 variations total. Evis has 10. This game has 10 final bosses, fun fact. Besides Shadow T-Tar, Evis can lead with any one of his Mons. So not only is this fight tricky on paper, we also have to find a way to beat every lead combo with a team that looks like this. With all that said, let's actually analyze and explain how this fight works from the ground up. To start, our usual lead of Espeon and Typhlosion isn't gonna cut it. We know we don't one-shot a majority of Evis's team at +1 special attack, and we're too vulnerable if any of them survive a turn. Instead, we're gonna pair Espeon with one of our little guys, specifically Shadow Makuhita. Evis has good AI, and one key trait of that is when one of his Pokemon sees a KO on something, they will always go for it. By feeding him easy death fodder, we can manipulate him to ignore Espeon so we can safely set up to +2. This is even better in doubles because when both Mons see a KO on the same target, then they will double up into that slot for maximum overkill. So on turn 1, we simply sack Makuhita, and then depending on the combo, we either sack another Mon or just go straight to Typhlosion. We actually reorder our party in this way far in advance, as it's useful for Mirror B too. Since we get fully healed before Nascor and Evis, we can use this trick for both fights. So, Maku dies a lot.
Hi.
Now what makes Maku better death fodder than our other two teammates, Plusle and Shadow Metatite? Another quirk of good AI is that in double battles, they will always target the mon they deal the most damage to. This is the problem with using Metatite, as depending on its random defense stat, Scizor can potentially end up targeting Espeon, which makes Scizor leads a lot slower and riskier. Maku, on the other hand, has much lower defense, so it will always get targeted no matter what. This seems kinda strange though, because how could it be taking more damage from Silverwind when it resists it? Well, what's actually happening here is that the AI checks for the highest possible damage with each of its moves. In this case, Scizor sees that it does far more damage to Maku with Metal Claw than it does to Espeon with Silverwind. We only see Silverwind because good AI prefers using higher accuracy moves that can kill. As for why we don't use Plusle, it's pretty simple. Now that SP is set up and Tai is on the field, we can start dealing with the most prominent threats in play. Scizor, Salamence, and Machamp we want dead as soon as possible, whereas Slowking and Slaking we can afford to have alive for a turn or two if we play correctly. There's still one glaring issue I haven't addressed yet though. How do we deal with Slowking and Tyranitar? Well, we actually set this up at the very beginning of the run. Through a very complicated RNG manipulation process, we can guarantee extremely high stats on our Espeon, and along with that, a highly specific hidden power. In the current any % route, we utilize HP Grass with at least 69 power. This coverage helps with a couple grass-weak psychic types that would otherwise wall us, but the biggest reason we use it is to make Evis possible, as it allows us to deal with Slowking and T-Tar. Though even at +2 special attack, they're not guaranteed to be one-shot, so we still have to be careful around them. That about sums up the main game plan for the fight, but there's still one more thing I need to bring up. At the start of every turn, Evis has a small chance of using X attacks on both of his mons, but he can only do this once. Depending on the combo and what turn they're used on, this can radically change how we play the fight. This is part of the reason why the notes take up 7 pages, as they have backup strats for X attacks used on turn 1. If we see them on any turn not marked by the notes, it's thankfully not too hard to adapt. Alright, so now that we're Evis experts, Evsperts, it's time for a field trip, yay! I'm gonna showcase a random variation of the fight and commentate it step by step. This is so you can get a better idea of the finer details beyond what I've been talking about so far. But before that, hi! Like and subscribe, thanks! First and foremost, we have to see what combo we get. Thankfully, Colosseum's battle intros are quite long, so we have plenty of time to find it in the labyrinth of notes. Slacking Scizor is not great. Any kind of Scizor lead is scary because of the possibility of Silverwind Omni Boost. If that happens, the fight becomes significantly slower and riskier. I'll begin the fight by setting up Espeon to +2 special attack. Another downside of this combo is that we have to sack all 3 of our little guys in order to properly set up. Unless we get turn 1 X attacks. The fight still plays out the same, but now it's a lot faster as we get to skip watching Metatite and Plusle die. Makuhita will not be so lucky. I further set up Espeon to +3, which is necessary if I want to 1 KO Slowking or Tyranitar. I can actually one-shot Scizor here if I wanted to, but I still target Slacking for one main reason. Scizor is the only thing on Evis's team that Typhlosion can one-shot, and getting 2 KOs in 1 turn is really fast. This makes it worth risking Silverwind Boost. Note that Intimidate doesn't hit Typhlosion here, which will be important for later. So problem, if we get Silverwind Boost in this specific spot, we almost always lose. Okay, good. At +1 speed, Scizor would have outsped my Typhlosion, so I would have had to protect with Espeon and then Fire Blast Scizor to get back on track. The issue with this is that it leaves Salamence alive, and if it uses Dragon Dance, I literally get swept. If Typhlosion is plus speed nature with at least 10 IV, you don't get outsped by Scizor and can continue the fight normally. However, you still have to Fire Blast it, so bad. Even with perfect special attack, Flame Wheel is only about 70% to Oko Scizor at +1 special defense. Every non-shadow Pokemon used by the AI have their IVs and natures preset. They all have 0 IVs across the board, but their natures are directly chosen. Here's Evis's team. That's pretty epic. Machamp sees a KO on Typhlosion with Earthquake, and this gives us an opportunity. I can go for a 75% damage range on Slowking with Hidden Power Grass, and if I get it, Tyranitar comes out and takes a huge chunk of damage from Machamp. Typhlosion also knows Earthquake, which we mainly use to make an earlier fight faster, but here we're going to use it to potentially finish off T-Tar next turn. You could take out Machamp first and Slowking later, but we want to deal with Tyranitar as soon as possible, and you'll see why. Even if I miss the range, Machamp will still take out Slowking for us, which is a cool thing of him to do. Oh yeah, if I get crit, I lose, by the way. Haha. We want to see T-Tar take at least 70% here, but since its stats are random, there's a huge amount of variance. This damage is okay, but I would have liked to see more in this case. As you can see, the Sandstorm chip is super slow. If I took out Machamp before Slowking to play it safe, then I'd be guaranteed to see 2 turns. My Typhlosion is minus attack nature, so Earthquake is likely going to be a range. Yeah! And there you have it. That's how you beat Evis in one of many possible dimensions. This fight encapsulates everything I find so cool about the Colosseum speedrun, and I hope you think it's cool too. I wish I could commentate over every combo, but alas, I am bound by my shackles. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you learned something new today. I stream this game very often on my Twitch channel, so go drop a follow if you're interested. Thanks. And with that, I hope you have a great day. Bye bye.